Okay, so y equals -2 over x plus 4, that is a rational function. Rational, like fractional, okay? In a fraction, what number can you never have in your denominator? 0. Therefore, what x value would make our denominator equal 0? -4. Therefore, what occurs at x equal to -4? A vertical asymptote. A vertical asymptote occurs at whatever x value makes the denominator equal 0. So I know my vertical asymptote is x equals -4. Because if you try to put in a -4 for x, you'll get a 0 in your denominator. Not possible. So your vertical asymptote is at x equals -4. You should also know your domain then at this point. Domain is all of your what values?
X values.
X values. Well, what x values are you going to be able to use when it comes to this graph? What x values are you going to, what numbers are you going to be able to plug in for x and expect to get an answer for y?
-2
And?
-4 to
So every number except
4.
-4, right? So therefore my domain is every number from -infinity to -4, and then again from -4 to positive infinity. Questions on that? All right. Let's use a graphing calculator to help us with the horizontal asymptotes. Please do this with me. Go ahead and enter this function into your graphing calculator. You'll need parentheses around your x plus 4. So I enter the equation y equals -2 divided by the quantity x plus 4. To find my horizontal asymptote, what I usually do is I actually look at my table of values. A lot of times your table of values will start here around 0 somewhere. Okay? To find your horizontal asymptote, what you do is you look to see what is the y value getting really close to as x gets really, really big. What is my y value? And write this down if you need to. What is the y value getting really close to as x gets really big? 0. Or if you prefer, what is the y value getting really close to as x gets really small? So instead of going in the positive direction, if you would like to go in the negative direction, what is the y value getting really close to as the x values get really small? The answer is still going to be what? 0. The y values are continuously getting really close to 0. So that means at y equals 0, I have a horizontal asymptote. The graph will get really close to y equals 0, but never touch it. Okay? So I have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. Well, then, what is my range? What y y values will the graph touch? Everything except 0. So how do we write that?
Negative infinite, and 0, and 0, infinite.
Good. Every number from negative infinity right up until you get to 0, and then every number from 0 to positive infinity.
Are there any ones that are going to be much harder than that to understand, or is that
You'll
just...
do the exact same thing we just did on your
Okay.
calculator to determine where the horizontal asymptotes.
Okay.
So you use your calculator to help you with the horizontal asymptotes. You just kind of use your brain a little bit here, all right, and know that you can't have 0 in your denominator to help you with your vertical asymptotes. Okay? What's my time at?
Yeah, you're at 6 minutes.
All right, I haven't even done any graphing yet, have I? Okay, now if I want to, I could go ahead and, on my graph paper, if I wanted to right now, I certainly could draw a couple things, right? I could draw my vertical, and I could draw my vertical and horizontal asymptotes, right? Negative 2 over x plus 4. But I haven't even drawn my graph yet. Okay, I'm just going to find all the stuff first. So I did my vertical asymptote, my domain, my horizontal asymptote, my range, x-intercepts and y-intercepts. How do you find x and y-intercepts? Plug in zeros, okay? So to find my x-intercept, I'm going to plug in a 0 for y. 0 equals negative 2 over x plus 4. How do I solve this? Multiply both sides by x plus 4. When I multiply this side by x plus 4, I just have negative 2, because if I multiply this by x plus 4, cancels out. And when I multiply 0 by x plus 4, I'll still have 0. And when is 0 equal to negative 2? Never. Therefore, where does this graph cross the x-axis? Doesn't. Never. None. There are no x-intercepts, which would make sense because didn't we have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0?
Yeah.
So there are no x-intercepts. How do we find the y-intercept? Plug in 0 for x. So y equals negative 2 over 0 plus 4. Negative 2 over 4. So that would be 0 comma negative 1/2, all right? So there's my y-intercept. So I have now found everything that I need, domain and range, x-intercept, y-intercept, vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote. I found all those things. Now I'm probably ready to graph it. Okay? Well, there's my vertical asymptote, there's my horizontal asymptote. Don't you guys have this entered into your graphing calculator right now? You guys rattle off some coordinates for me? I know this one because we just did it, 0 comma negative 1/2, but maybe try and give me some more.
Negative 6 and 1.
Negative 6, 1,
Negative 5 and 2.
5, 2. So is it like this over here then?
Yeah.
If you guys look at your graph, I mean, you just got to get a few on there, guys. So I'm guessing then, what's negative 3? Negative 3, negative 2, and then is it negative 2, negative 1?
Yeah.
So then I'm guessing it looks like this down here. It's good enough. Get a few coordinates on there, draw it. I'm fine with that. Hit your graph button. Does the graph look something like this on your calculator screen too? Okay. So that's 8.1. Okay. Questions on that? Can you tell me where the vertical asymptotes would be for this one? There'd be two of them. What would make it easier so you could tell exactly where those vertical asymptotes are? Factor the denominator, yep. What would the two factors be?
X minus 7 and plus 3.
X minus 7 and x plus 3. Now can you tell me exactly where the vertical asymptotes are?
7 and negative.
X equals 7. And x equals negative 3. Because those x values would make the denominator equal 0. Whatever x values would make just the denominator equal 0, at that x value you will have a vertical asymptote. Okay? Any questions on that?